I've been making stuff my whole life. Like I've been drawing. I thought I wanted to be an illustrator, and I thought I wanted to do like digital art. And like my full-time job, I do 3D art, and I love doing that. But like when I found making toys, like making the bootleg action figures, it like hits all the marks for me. I like working in Photoshop, making the card backs. I love painting stuff. I love putting it all together. So when I put a toy together, it checks all the things that I want to do as an artist. I'm graphic designing, I'm 3D sculpting stuff, I'm painting with my hands. Yeah, I'm just in love with it. My name is Eddie Anaya, and I'm a 3D artist, but at night I make bootleg one-of-a-kind action figures. And I collect all sorts of things. I started making action figures about 2 years ago. I was working at this t-shirt place, and one of the art dudes there was like, hey, I'm gonna be selling shirts at this convention, like come check it out. And I was like, okay, so then I went. It was DesignerCon in Pasadena. I went to the convention, I'm like, whoa, there's like so much cool stuff here. This is amazing. And I've been going there for a while, a couple of years. And then, I don't know, I've just been into toys and collecting stuff. And I've always messed with toys like Black Series action figures and like chopping them up and kind of making my own. But about 2 years ago, one of my best friends, we were at DesignerCon, and then I think Dove at DKE was selling little blister packs. And it was kind of like a make your own toy kind of thing. And then I kept telling my friend, like, dude, I think I want to do it. And he's like, dude, you totally can. Like, I think you could do it. So I bought a couple of the blister packs from DKE, and then it's been all downhill since then. I love doing it, but man, it's work. It's like consumed everything that I do. I'm always thinking about toys now, but I mean, I love it. I would say all of them are pretty much kit bashed, but I mean, that style of kit bashing stuff goes all the way back to like the first Star Wars figures. Cause I mean, when they were making those prototypes, they were like taking other stuff and like sculpting over them. And that's kind of what inspired me to make the kit bash stuff. And also when I started getting into like the designer toys, collector toys kind of thing, I would see people like Dano Brown and Death by Toys, and seeing the stuff that they were making. It just seemed more accessible to me than buying resin and buying like a pressure pot and doing all this crazy stuff. Because honestly, at the time when I started making stuff, I didn't really have a lot of room. It was in this garage, but I just had this little like confined space. And when I figured out the like recipe to kit bashing stuff, it was just like easy, like go buy some toys and chop them up and paint them. And it just kind of made sense to me at the time. Like when I first saw the Phantom Star Killers and like the Killer bootlegs, I'm like, man, this is like a Star Wars thing, but like who made this? Like, and then I realized, oh, some guy's making this like in his garage. And yeah, that's just pretty cool to me. Cause like my whole life I've just been creating stuff. Ever since I was a kid, I was into like painting and drawing and doing like all sorts of creative stuff. And I always wanted to have like a creative outlet, and the toy thing kind of just fell right into place. I'm really a nostalgic person, so like I grew up watching a lot of movies with my aunt and my uncle. When I was a kid, like all my friends were watching like Disney Channel movies and like whatever popular Disney movie at the time, and like Pokemon and stuff like that. And I was into that stuff too, but like my aunt and my uncle, they were like about 10 years older than me, so they were kids of the 80s. Like they grew up watching Goonies and Pretty in Pink and like Breakfast Club, and they were showing me those kind of movies. So like as I was getting all the like traditional 90s kid stuff, I was also consuming a bunch of 80s movies. And then as I got older, like I've always just been into that stuff and like nostalgic over it. And I think that really reflects a lot in my work. I make a lot of like 80s movies, 90s movies, like stuff that I grew up watching. I make a lot of stuff from like video games, like Tony Hawk Pro Skater, like Spider-Man. Like I spent so many hours playing as Spider-Man in Tony Hawk Pro Skater 2. Like the Camel cigarette guy, like that's nostalgic for me, because like I remember as a kid like going out to the mailbox and getting the mail, and then like there'd be like a Camel cigarette catalog like for my grandpa. So yeah, all my work is kind of a reflection of like the stuff I grew up watching or stuff that I'm into. I try not to do stuff that I'm not really familiar with or stuff that I like never really watched, just because like I'm like an artist when it comes down to it. And like if I'm not having like the heart to make something, if I'm just making it for like a quick buck, like I don't really want to do that. I kind of just want to make the stuff that like makes me happy and stuff that like I would want to buy. I made some Revenge of the Nerds ones when I first got started, and those ones like I'm really proud of, because like I think about my aunt all the time and like the stuff that she showed me and introduced me to. She unfortunately passed away like 3 years ago, and so she never really got to see me making these toys, but I like every time I make something like that, I'm like, man, she would love this, she would get a kick out of this. And some of the most successful toys that I've made I made some Bad Friends action figures for Bobby Lee and Andy Santino. A friend of mine was going to like a meet and greet, so she commissioned me to make some figures for her, and I ended up making both of them. She only had the money to make one of them, but I was like, no, I can't just make Bobby Lee, I have to make both of them. So I made two, and then she took them to the meet and greet, and they were so stoked on them. I guess they get all kinds of like free stuff when people come and meet them. They get like posters and drawings and stuff like that. So they had a whole pile of stuff, and then when she handed it to them and they were tripping over them, they gave them to the assistant, and they told the assistant, no, put it on the other side with all the good shit. Like, don't put it, don't mix it in with everything. So now those are on the show, and I still get asked about those all the time. And like when people find me because of those, it's pretty cool. I made this Boingo figure, and Oingo Boingo is like one of my favorite bands of all time. And like my wife happened to be able to get it into the hands of Danny Elfman, and he signed it for me, and he was actually pretty stoked on it as well. So this is like one of my favorite toys that I've ever made also. I sell stuff on Etsy under Reality Breakdown. My Instagram is @EddieAnaya_. I do most of my sales and stuff through there on Eddie Anaya. I'm actually going to probably be changing it just to Eddie Anaya Toys, so you can find me on Instagram there.